Hi everyone, this is Brent Ellison, and I'm here today to talk to you about character generation in Streets of Fortuna. So let's get into it. Our goals with character generation are, number one, to fill the city, so that when you're walking around, there are people moving everywhere and you feel like you're in a simulated world. Number two, we need to make sure every one of these characters has a place to live, worship, and get entertained. It's actually almost all these characters, because there are some characters that live outside the city and come in to sell their goods. Each of these characters needs to have unique traits and tastes so that there are meaningful interactions and they each feel like an individual. But at the same time, there need to be cultures and professions that have similarities so that you can recognize the patterns. And finally, we want these traits and tastes to affect the game world. So in order to talk about the character generation, let's do an overview of the generation process in general. So first thing that happens is the city itself is generated, the roads and the buildings. If you want to know more about that, see our previous devlog by Mayor Dodd. Along with the buildings comes something called properties. So a property could be something like a stall, it could be a residence, it could be a shop front. The way this works is that we place out things inside buildings and chunks that are a collection of potential properties that something could have. So a shop front, it could actually be a bakery or a butcher or a ceramics shop, that sort of thing. A residence, it could be a residence for low wealth, middle wealth. It could have a certain number of residents that live there so that we know how many beds, etc. These properties are the most important thing for the citizens. So we'll talk about that in a sec. And we then generate the items based on the information we know about the citizens. So let's go more into detail about the citizens getting generated. So the first thing that happens is we go through all the properties that have been generated in the game. And we look at the people that need to work in those properties. We call these the professional NPCs. So a tavern might have one server, two cooks, a cleaner, those sorts of things. We generate a stub NPC for each of these professional slots in every property in the game. Then, these professional NPCs get assigned to residences that are appropriate for their wealth level. Professional NPC wealth level is based on the profession, but also the place that they work, the wealth level of that property. So therefore, they can only live in a residence that matches their wealth level. Next, we're going to have a bunch of residence slots left over. And then we generate the unemployed NPCs. These could be homemakers, they could be nobles, they could be just family members, things like that. And so they're going to fill all those extra residence slots. In the future, we will probably leave some of those slots empty so that we can have empty rooms and things like that. Next, we generate the details, and I'll talk to you about that in a sec. But just to say what happens in the end is that now that you have all that information, we can generate the schedules for each NPC. They go to their workplace based on the opening hours of that place. We then pick an entertainment and a worship place for them based on what slots are available, the timing, etc. And finally, we set their home time when they can sleep or interact with their family members based on the remaining time in their schedule. Okay, let's dig into the details. So we have an asset called the demographics data. And the purpose of this is to define what cultures are in the city, at what rates, at what wealth levels. The cultures are fictional ones, but they're based on real cultures from Constantinople. And the cultures will define things like their appearance, hair, skin color, etc., as well as the kind of clothing they wear. It can also give them potential to pull some traits from that, and sobriquets. Sobriquets is a funny name for nicknames that we use, and they can come from a variety of places because we're trying to make this information meaningful and interesting. Equally, if not more so, important than the cultures to affecting the NPC is their profession. Some professions are more of a big deal than others, but it can affect their traits. It can affect what kind of things they have in their house, because like a blacksmith will have more valuable iron objects in their house than other people. It can give them a sobriquet, of course, and various other elements you can see. So a trait, I've been talking about that a lot. Let's talk about what it actually is. A trait is something on an NPC that can affect how they interact with you in dialogue, the kinds of responses they give you. It can affect their behaviors, which is what they actually do when they're at home or at work. It can affect their reactions to crime, and it can affect item generation. So let's go through some examples. There is a trait called drunkard. And a drunkard, of course, they are going to have a taste for wine and other alcohols. They're also going to be picking an entertainment location that serves alcohol, to be sure. And also, they're going to drink more and get drunker while they're there. In addition, they'll appreciate an alcoholic gift. Another trait is greedy. This is an NPC that is very responsive to bribes. They also will probably have a taste for expensive stuff, gold, etc. There are also disorganized and neat traits. With the disorganized trait, you might see an NPC's house get generated with bottles and clusters and messes all around, whereas a neat person will have them all in a row. In addition, disorganized people will be less likely to clean up and put things back. If an NPC temporarily puts things down, or you as a player knock it over, there is behavior for them to put them back in the right place. Disorganized person, not going to do that very often. The traits can come from cultures or professions, but there also is a larger random pool so that we can create more uniqueness for any NPC. In addition, the traits will be able to come from religions in the future. And of course, traits can lead to sobriquets. So that drunk NPC, he might be named Soggy Kevin, for example. So the traits can lead to tastes. Tastes are, again, about object generation. If someone really loves blue, there's going to be blue painted things in their house. That'll also affect their clothing. They could also have a taste for cat-themed things. So there will be little miniature cats all around. This is important to you as a player because it affects the kind of gifts that they are going to appreciate. We really want to get that kind of social gameplay in there, so this is an important element of Streets of Fortuna. Because these tastes and traits are supposed to be visible in the game world from various sources, we want you to be able to guess them so that you can give the appropriate gift. And maybe you're giving them a gift because you want to gain influence with them for the future, or maybe you just want them to do something right now. Knowing about their traits and tastes is going to help you with that. The tastes, in addition to coming from traits, can also come from random lists, so that everybody is unique. These are split by wealth level, so that NPCs with a higher wealth level have more expensive tastes, or particular types of tastes, and people with a lower wealth level, different kind. In addition, every NPC is granted food tastes separately from the other tastes so that we can guarantee everybody has their own food tastes. This is because we want to make it an important part of the cooking gameplay in the future. An NPC may like chicken, they may like bitter things, they may like herbaceous stuff. In fact, more than likely, they'll like more than one of those things so that it can be more of a challenge to try to match all their tastes. And finally, these tastes, in addition to affecting the items that get generated, they can even affect the name of a business that's owned by the NPC. So if there's an NPC that owns a tavern and they really like green or plants or things like that, maybe it's going to be called the Verdant Garden. Otherwise, you could have a place called the Diamond Den, and that could be indicative of an NPC that really likes fancy things or particular minerals. All right, so that's the basics of NPC generation. So if you have any questions, hit us up on Discord. We're often there, and I'll see you next time.